Hey guys, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, or sorry, it's actually Wednesday, June 15th. It is 6:21 right now. I'm gonna go ahead and set up this room real quick, and then we can get started with our session for today. So let me just get this all set up right here, and then we will get started with our analysis of the bias for this morning. All right, looks good. A lot of things here. Looks good. All right, solid. Let me get this link sent out to you guys here in the premium. All right, there we go. So as people join in, I'm going to go ahead and mark up the liquidity here on the 1 minute time frame. So I'm going to go on the higher one to the 1 hour first. Mark up the liquidity right here. It's like people are still making their way in. So still marked up here. There's a lot of liquidity here sitting on the top side. I don't really expect it to push up too high today, but we'll see if there's some sort of correction, which is a possibility. I mean, there's no guarantee that it's not going to go up. So, but I think looking over at the sentiment, it's still indicating sell. However, it's been dropping for quite some time, so it might be due for some retracement at this point, but we'll see. If there's no overall bias, obviously there's not going to be any entries for us to take just yet, but when the market opens in the next 7 minutes, we can confirm that once the market identifies which direction it plans on moving for the day. So I got these marked up here. 10-minute. Looks good. It's good right there. A couple more things here. 5-minute right there. And lastly, we'll mark it down to the 1 minute here. And then you guys can see a lot of the closer areas of liquidity over here. All right, so as you guys can see, there's a lot of liquidity on both sides, top and bottom. It's all marked up right here. And price is pretty much just ranging between, these two highs and lows. So good morning, everybody. Looks like majority of people are here. So it is Wednesday, June 15th. It is 6:24 right now. Market's going to open in about 6 minutes. So we will see where market is going when the market does open shortly. Looking over here at the retail sentiment, it is currently 70% long. So with it being 70% long, that indicates that 70% of retail traders are currently buying right now. So we want to do the opposite of the majority, which is sell. Looking over here at the fundamentals, though, the fundamentals are currently up 229 points. So with that said, we don't have an overall bias because the fundamentals are indicating a buy while the retail sentiment is indicating a sell. What I'll be looking for here is I'm looking for this to shift back to a sell, which will probably happen, within the live session, but we'll see what happens. Just But just to keep that in mind, there's no overall bias because this is indicating a buy, this is indicating a sell, and the technicals over here are pretty much neutral. Trend meter is blue, prices in between the pivots. There's no overall bias. So with that said, we're not really looking for anything specific right now until we have some sort of bias. However, we will be looking for any possible entries that may appear from now until 8 o'clock. We still have about 4 minutes till market open, but if the market does provide a strong red candle, that would be the breakout. I'll put the breakout strategy over here. However, if you guys remembered from the requirements here, the optional but recommended requirement to confirm bias is requirement number 2. And since we don't have a bias, I'm probably not going to be taking the breakout today. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, let's see who else is here. So morning Ruin, morning Kenny, morning Eduardo, morning Maria, morning Miles, morning Peter, morning Lisa, morning Sam, morning Denzel, morning Maddie, morning Fund Me, morning Marlon, morning Chris, morning Peter, morning David, morning Patricia, morning Miriam, morning everybody. All right, guys. So as I was saying earlier, sorry, I just lost my track of thought. I'm gonna go ahead and mark up the news. We had news today at 5:30. It was negative. Today at 5:30 was the core retail sales, Empire State Manufacturing Index, import prices. At 7, we have business inventories, NAHB Housing Market Index. And then at 7:30, we have crude oil inventories. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark up news price over here real quick before the market opens, which was at 5:30. Oops, wrong tool. 5:30. There, that was news price. And then we have news coming up at 7. And 7:30 over here. All right, so now that we have that marked up, I'm gonna go here to the clean chart. I'm gonna mark up the areas of liquidity here. I'm just gonna mark it up on the 1 minute because we don't necessarily need anything too crazy. This is just a clean chart to identify, direction of price currently. So got everything set up right there. Or the areas of liquidity. News price was here at 5:30. News right here at 7. 7:30. Market open here at 6:30. And end of live session there at 8. All right, so market is going to open shortly, guys. Market is opening in about 40 seconds. So as I was mentioning earlier, basically, if we get a strong red candle, that would technically be the breakout. However, as you guys can see, there's a lot of areas here of risk. News price right here, and then we have the sessions right below here as well. So we'll see what happens when the market does officially open in the next 20 seconds. When the market opens, we'll see if we get a strong red candle in the direction of momentum, and then possibly an entry for the breakout. If I do see it and it looks good, then I might take it for a partial entry. Maybe I'll just take it for 100 pips or so and then pull out. But I probably won't be taking it for the full move because of, there's obviously no overall bias here. So the market is now open. If this closes as a strong green candle, this would technically be the breakout. So just follow this right here. One of the red flags that you want to look out for is the huge candle. So if that candle closes too big, then you probably want to sit it out, maybe wait for a late entry. But if this candle here does close as a strong green candle, meaning little to no wick on the top side, then this would technically be the breakout for today. However, we don't have an overall bias, so I'm not looking to take anything just yet specifically. You guys can see the huge wick right here. So this is not a strong green candle. Definitely not a strong green candle right here. This might be a sell actually. So the breakout right here is actually a sell, guys, because it was a strong red candle right there. Let's see if I can probably get this for like 100 pips or so. Looks like I hit my TP already. All right, cool. So it's too risky of a move here, guys. I would just probably sit it out. As you can see, price is moving way too fast. I entered for a quick sell and I hit my TP real quick as I was pulling up right here. So I just got in, got out. But yeah, this would technically looks like it possibly be the breakout right here. Not one that I would take again, as I mentioned, because there's no bias. But yeah, technically this would be it would be considered the breakout. But I don't recommend anyone take it. Just keep that in mind. If I'm taking any trades, I'm taking them for quick little moves. The reason for that's because of the bias. There is no strong bias in either direction. I mean, obviously, if you guys look here, the sentiment over here is currently 70% long, but the fundamentals here are very bullish, I believe. Yeah, we currently have 268 points. So I don't recommend people enter any trades right now. Just price it out, wait for some sort of bias to come in. If you guys do take any trades, maybe it'll be best if you guys enter and exit rather quickly. So just keep that in mind. There's no need to force anything. You guys got to keep in mind that today is Fed day as well. So we're having heavy news later today. We had heavy news this morning, and then we also have heavy news later today as well. So we had news at 5:30, news at 7:30, and then at 11. That's where we have the really high impact news with the Fed speaking later today. They're going to be discussing U.S. economy, interest rates, etc., the recession. So something to keep in mind. So again, right here, this is the main reason why I was mentioning that you probably shouldn't take the trades here because there's no bias. Price is pretty much going both ways. I'll be looking for any possible entries as price does come down. However, in order for it to come down and provide a sell, we would need the fundamentals over here to be bearish, because we can't take any variations until we have an overall bias. We also can't take any pivot scalps. We really can't take any entries until we have some sort of overall bias in the market. So with that said, I'm probably just going to sit out and wait. Here's a clean chart over here. As you guys can see, price is literally just going back and forth. There's no clear direction right now. I'm going to mark up opening price right here. I'd like to find it. So opening price is right there. Color that blue. So I gotta move this a little higher. It's on the wrong candle. Opening price is right there. Yeah, there we go. All right, so this is opening price right here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if price comes back down and retest that area. But again, it's not one that I'd recommend anyone play around with. I'd probably just sit out the market for a bit, just chill out and wait for something to really confirm. There's no confirmation of like what direction price is going to be going. I mean, obviously the retail sentiment is 70% or now 69% long. So it's actually shifting. So it's not as strong as it was earlier. Yeah, exactly. Ed said trading this is like gambling. And I agree. That's why I wouldn't recommend anyone play around, because you're just gambling at this point. Price is going back and forth. There's no clear direction as to where price is going. I do think price will eventually make its way back down, but I just don't know when. So that's why it's best to just sit out and wait for, direction to be established. There just isn't any direction right now. Price is going back and forth. Fundamentals are bullish. Retail sentiment is bearish. Let's check out the heat map real quick. Refresh this. The heat map is pretty green actually right now. So So it's there's really I mean, there's no clear direction. This is telling you to take buys. This is telling you to take sells. Price is going back and forth. You can see right there, it went back to opening price where we anticipated, but it's just too risky. It's like not really worth, hopping into. Again, this area right here is getting hit. This might be, let's see. Yeah, this might be an area of liquidity right here. This price continues to move along. But again, these trades here are they're just too risky unless you have like some sort of bias or some sort of, I guess, clear direction. Because that right there was a liquidity push, which, if you took it, great. I was going to take it. I was actually really tempted to take it, but with the crazy movements in the market right now, I'm not really looking to take any trades. Also, it was right at the, so you can see right here, it did hit TP if you did take it. However, you can see where it's bouncing off of the opening price, this blue line right here. So price came down, hit TP, and then spiked all the way back up. And that's going to be normal. It's going to happen, pretty often during these crazy movements. Yeah, Charles, it does count. But I would recommend that so Charles was asking if the 630 candle would count as a breakout candle. It can count as a breakout candle, but I would personally wait for a bias. So that's why I didn't take the breakout there. I took it for a quick little push for like 1,000 pips or so. 100 pips, but you want to confirm the bias. That's like super necessary right here. I know it's optional, but for me personally, it's heavily required. And here you can see price is now bouncing around. You can see price came back down, tested opening price, and then now it's back up here. We'll see how far it pushes up, but I do expect it to tumble down at some point. This is one area to look out for. These areas of liquidity right here. Eduardo said he lost that breakout, was able to make it back on that drop. Nice work, Eduardo. Yeah, glad to see you were able to recover from that. But you can see how volatile the market is. So the market just opened right here, like about a few minutes ago. So for market open right here, price pretty much spiked up almost 800 pips, spiked down like 300 pips. And it's just going back and forth. It's easier to see here on the clean chart because there's not really much markings on the screen. But basically, this is all that's happening right here. Market open right here at this blue line. And now price is just going back and forth. So there's no clear direction. Until you get a clear direction, you don't want to be taking any trades because the last thing you want to do is get caught in a retracement and then you end up getting stopped out before it hits your TP. Here we go, as price starts to drop a little lower. Let's see if there's anything else here. There just isn't anything for us to take right now. So I'll keep watching for any possible entries. I just don't see anything here on the 10-minute, on the 5-minute, 1 minute. Here's the 10-minute. I'm going to go ahead and mark up the liquidity here as well. Just really quick on the 10-minute so that we have the higher time frames marked up as well. Shouldn't take too long. The higher time frames are actually a lot easier because there's not so many areas of liquidity to draw here. All right. Let that mark up pretty quick. Not marked up. Same with that. Good. There's actually a lot of areas of liquidity here, even on the higher time frames. 15. $10. And that's it. All right. So here are the areas of liquidity here on the 10-minute. As you guys can see, it's pushing a bit higher. If it does push up higher, it's going to hit this area of liquidity right here. And then maybe it'll push up a bit higher from that point. This is probably marked up on the on the 1 minute as well. Let me see real quick. It's getting close to it on the 1 minute, but on the 10-minute actually already hit that area of liquidity right there. So it's probably going to push up to this next level if it hasn't already. And then it's probably going to push up a bit higher. So here on the 10-minute, you guys can see the liquidity got pushed up already. So this is the good thing about these liquidity pushes is that you could, I mean, you can technically take in both directions, like because there's no clear direction, the fundamentals are telling you to take a buy while the retail sentiment is telling you to take a sell. So right here, you could have taken this liquidity push on the 10-minute. Obviously, you go for a bigger push, but I mean, if you just want to go for 100 pips, that already would have hit TP right there. You know, so that's the good thing about having these marked up on both the higher time frames and the lower time frames, because you can follow them on both. You know, if you're looking for the bigger moves or you're looking for the smaller moves right here. Price did hit this area of liquidity. Right there. Trying to push through and break through it, but this is just a riskier way of trading. If you guys want to trade riskier, you guys can take both, like you can take liquidity pushes in either direction, but I'd probably be a bit careful because that's where the greed starts to come in. Once you start to like look for, like once you start forcing trades, that's where you start to take on a lot more risk. That's like the way that that Kevin's been doing. That's why he's been making big profits, because, you know, obviously the market's been good as it's been bouncing both ways. But as just like, you know, Rick said over here, this is you're going to get conflicting entries. So for this buy right here, this is conflicting because we're looking for an overall sell, but it provided for a buy liquidity push right there. So I mean, you could have taken either one. Like for example, this could have taken this on the 10 and it would have hit TP. And then again, right here, there was a V1, just like, actually there's no V1 right there. It looks like it could have been close to it, but not exactly. Or this V1 right here, I think this is the one that Rick's referring to. There's actually a V1 that came up right here. And this would have went straight to TP. Right there on that following candle. So there's a lot of entries that are coming up here. The only problem is that we don't have a bias, so you can't really determine which direction you really want to trade in. For me personally, I usually use retail sentiment. This is always going to be the #1 bias, like the first step. The fundamentals and technicals are going to be secondary to this. So if this is 69% long, I'm just being patient and I'm waiting for this to shift back into the red so that I can start taking some sells. Typically, I'm not going to be trading both ways because it's just too risky. It's not worth the risk. Because, you know, if you have one loss, it's going to set you back quite a bit. So you just want to, you basically want to just focus on taking wins. And if you can take 1 or 2 wins a day, that's perfectly fine. It adds up. So other than that, let me just update these areas of liquidity right here. Plus, I made a lot of profit last night already, so I'm not looking to risk any of it. I'm just going to be taking it a bit easy. Let's see if I can find something else here. Let me scroll up. Rick said, I'm old enough to remember when the breakout would just continue to push in one direction. This is ass, right? Yeah, typically that's how the breakout is supposed to work. It just goes in one direction and just keeps pushing in that direction. Now price is kind of just going back and forth. So it's like kind of difficult to really predict where it's going to go because there just isn't one direction anymore. It goes both ways. Before it actually chooses its direction. Going over here to the clean chart. So looking at the market now, it looks like price is starting to decide on its direction, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes right back down. So market opened right here. You can see how price pushed up, then it came back down, then it pushed back up. I wouldn't be surprised if this comes right back down and then retest open again. And then from there, it'll do either a further drop or it's going to bounce back off here. Like I wouldn't be surprised. That's like a normal. Whenever we have like tricky markets like this is like the typical pattern that comes out. They try to lure in some buyers here. As soon as there's enough buyers in there, they just dump price back down and stop everybody out. And you don't want to play in that game. That's how the market makers make most of their money, right? They try to trap people in these positions or in these directions, and then they end up reversing it right when you least expect it. So yeah, I'm gonna sit tight and I'm just gonna wait for some sort of direction to be confirmed. There's just no direction here right now. Price just keeps getting pushed higher and higher. So there we go again right there. So we got some profits over here posted by Dell. Nice work, Dell. Dell over here locked in a total of 427 for the day. So great work right there, Dell. Kevin over here, he took it as well. He took that sell, locked in a total profit of 27,000 for the day. Nice work, Kevin. Dell again right here, 815 now. So nice work, Dell. He added on another one. Yeah, Dell said today's going to be crazy with this inflation news. Got to get in and out. Yeah, and I agree 100%, guys. If you guys are in a position, don't get greedy. Just pull out whenever you hit your profit target or you're satisfied with your profits, because with the inflation news and the Fed speaking later, it's just market's going to get crazy. It's going to go back and forth. And that's kind of what I anticipate to happen here. Patricia as well, she posted her profit. She locked in a total profit of 1,920. Nice work, Patricia. Over here, we have Milzon. He locked in a total of 1,300. Nice work, Milzon. This is his MFF challenge. Other than that, I don't really see anything else here. Let me scroll down real quick. Rick said he is a buy trader. Ed's asking, what trade strategies did you take last night? During Asia session, I'm typically applying the liquidity pushes, Ed. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, most of the other trades I took were all liquidity pushes. They might have been a trade within a trade. So there might have been a variation, and then I took it because there was a liquidity push that it was reaching. So most of the time, a lot of these strategies will overlap. Like you'll have a variation. So initially I'll probably see a variation. And then when I see a variation, I'll see that there is liquidity right below it, or like where the entry's at. So then I take it because of those two things. You know, the more strategies that align, the higher confidence you have of it hitting, because each strategy has a very high win rate already. If you have two strategies that line up, then it's probably for sure going to hit. So that's typically what I do. It's similar to the triple confluence. I mean, if you guys have seen the triple confluence strategy, it's just three strategies compiled into one entry. So if you guys ever apply the triple confluence, when you're looking for a valid K2 momentum signal, this is just an intraday entry. When you see that it matches the K2 trend meter, that's like these two requirements are an intraday entry. It's just done on the lower time frame. If it's below or above a pivot, that's just a pivot scalp entry. And then breaking, closing below a high low, that's just a high low scalp. So this is three. That's why it's called a triple confluence, because it's three strategies tied into one, but it doesn't necessarily need to be just these three strategies. It can be any three other strategies. It can be a variation plus a pivot scalp plus an intraday. It doesn't really matter. But typically that's the ones, I mean, those are the ones that I usually always take because they always hit. If one strategy has a 75% win rate and then you compile that with another strategy, it's 75 plus 75, odds are it's probably going to hit. And that's why I take those trades there. Price is currently at these sessions right here, so I wouldn't take anything at this moment. One of two things are going to happen here. So when price reaches this point, which it currently did, it's either going to fake out and come back down, or it's going to continue pushing up. So just look out for that scenario right here. Don't be surprised if price comes back down. These are the normal patterns that come up from this point. Going over to the 10-minute, there goes the liquidity that we had earlier. It broke right through it and hit the TP right there. So as you guys can see, if you guys are not comfortable with lower time frames, which a lot of people aren't, just go on the higher time frames, the same thing. You're literally applying the same thing on a different time frame. You're just using a different TP stop loss because it's a bigger move. Let's see, other than that, Eduardo's asking, they will push market up this morning, waiting for the interest to go up. Yeah, no, that could happen, Eduardo. I mean, yeah, if the interest rates go up, it's not going to be good for the market. So, basically from here up until the Fed, when they speak at 11, they might just prop price up. And then around 11, when the Fed speaks, which it's really not that far from now, they'll just prop price up. And then when the Fed speaks, they'll just crash it right back down. Right? That's typically what's going to happen. So this right here, I just see this as a temporary push up. I don't see this as a long-term push. And here you go with that pattern that I just showed you guys. I said one of two things are going to happen: price will either fake out and come back below, or it will continue pushing up higher. And from what I see right here, it looks like the fake out is playing out and it's now pushing below. But who knows? I mean, there's no guarantee it's going to keep pushing that direction. It can easily just swing back up. But this is why you don't want to trade during markets like this, because there's no clear direction and there's no real confirmation as to where price is going. Like, you can get lucky trading either way, but there's no guarantee it's going to keep pushing that way or the other. And typically, I don't want to get lucky. I want to be sure that my trade is going to hit. So whenever I take a trade, I only take it if I'm like basically 100% sure it's going to hit. I'm not taking anything too risky here, or anything that could have even, the slightest possibility of losing, obviously. Right here, this is a manipulated area. This is why we never trade around these areas where but wherever there is horizontal lines. If there's a horizontal line around the area, I typically don't trade around that point, because it's just an area of manipulation. So like right here, price can go either way. It'll either fake out and come down further, or it'll push up and continue pushing up higher. I don't want that 50-50% anticipation. I want to know like 100% whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to go down. So that's why if you look at the red flags here, guys, it's always going to be typically where these horizontal lines are. So when to avoid trades when price is near sessions. There's a session right here. This is why I wouldn't take any trades at this point, even if we have an idea where price is going. Near news opening price, this blue line here. Near news price, this pink line right here. It's just too many. There's too many possibilities. You typically want two scenarios. Price will go one way or the other. You don't want like 5 scenarios, like where price can go sideways, it can fake out, it can go up, it can go down, etc. You just want price to either go in your direction or go against you. Because if you lose that trade, then you already know, like, all right, the trade's just not working. You don't have to be stressed out wondering if the market's playing with you. Like right here, the market's obviously playing with people. Price came above, faked out, came down, faked out again, came back up. I wouldn't be surprised if it fakes out and comes right back down again. It's just a matter of patience and discipline, being able to take a deep breath and wait. Oh, looks like we got Powell speaking today. Yeah, he's speaking today at 11 o'clock. Thanks, Kenny, for this. So we have Jay Powell speaking later during the Fed day today, which is no surprise. He's the Fed chair, so obviously he's going to be speaking. But yeah, that's going to happen a little later today at 11. Yeah, exactly. John said 75 basis points is already expected. Market might rally when it happens. It's all dice rolling. Yeah, truly, that's really what it is, guys. It's a gamble because the thing is, even though they like everybody already has an idea what they're going to discuss. They're going to discuss the recession, the economy, interest rates, etc. With that said, we already know price is going to drop because it's not good for the economy. So the price may be manipulated and it may be pushed up higher before it actually drops, but eventually it's going to drop. So my word of advice would be to wait for the drop, really. And then once you're able to identify it, then you can probably ride that thing right back down, because I do see it coming back pretty far. Tomorrow is Thursday. Let me check the news for tomorrow. Tomorrow we have more negative news coming up. We have the Philly manufacturing index, and then we have unemployment claims. Obviously, unemployment is going to be up. We're going through a recession. People are getting laid off, etc. So the news is going to be negative. I do think it's going to come back further. And then Friday, we have Powell speaking again. So this might cause price to go up slightly before it drops again further. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens here. But as you can see where price is currently at, this is what I was just showing you guys earlier. Price hasn't gone anywhere, right? Price pushed above, faked out, came back below, faked out, came back above, faked out. Now it's coming back below. So it's just going back and forth. As it goes back and forth like this, it's going to choose a direction at some point. You're basically just waiting for the direction to be chosen. And then you can possibly, ride that back down. This is easier to see here now because you can see that this is the low, this is the high. Where's price going? Sideways. There's no direction. Let me go over here to the clean chart. I'm going to go and just clean this up a little bit here. We also have news coming up in about a minute. Hopefully that news is going to push price one way or the other. My guess is that it will. Just got to wait for it. All right, we got news coming up in about 40 seconds. When the news comes, it's probably going to push price in its direction. Yeah, Maddie said he can see price dump before he speaks. I can see it too. Steven said, when I'm impatient, I take too many risks. Yeah, you should probably just uninstall MT4 right now, Steven. But it's just it's just gonna be a matter of really controlling yourself. Yeah, if you already know you're gonna be too risky, Steven, you should probably just close your MT4 and then just reopen it later when there is a bias. Because right now there's no bias. You shouldn't be entering anything. Price is pretty much going back and forth. When there's a bias, then maybe you can reopen your MT4 and then you can start looking for trades. But right now, there's definitely nothing for us to take. Alexander said, hate to admit it, but I just effed up my verification. Took a loss of 5K at the 630 breakout and revenge traded. Yeah, I mean, that's typical. But the thing is, you're being real with yourself, Alexander. You're not just you're not in denial. So that's a problem with a lot of times when people make mistakes trading, they're in denial, right? They want to blame the strategy, they want to blame the market, they want to blame a lot of things except for themselves. But if you guys can come to the realization that you made a mistake and you guys can learn from it, that's really where the growth happens. So it's all good, Alexander. I know you took a loss off the breakout. It was a risky breakout, so obviously it should have been avoided. But but you'll bounce back. It's not a big deal. It just blows my mind how some people are delusional. Like there's some people who will say like they'll keep asking the same question, like why this strategy didn't work or why it didn't hit TP. And then you look at the requirements and they skip the very first step, right? It's like the variations here. People will take variations and ask, hey, like, hey, how come this variation didn't work? I'm like, did you confirm the overall bias? And they're like, no. Well, obviously it didn't work because you didn't follow the directions. If you guys follow the directions step by step, I know sometimes it's hard because you guys get FOMO and you guys want to like hop into every trade. If you follow every direction here, you should be perfectly fine because these requirements are here for a reason. You're not supposed to take every single trade that comes up. You're supposed to wait for, you know, these perfect entries. There's a reason why they have a high win rate because these requirements are all required. So other than that, yeah, Ed said I took a loss on breakout on demo as well. I'm learning to become more risk adverse like Sean. Yeah, and that's really what's key, guys. It's really just understanding risk. So a lot of people talk about risk management regarding your lot size. It's not just lot size. It's identifying what's a risky trade and what's not. For me, I find everything here to be risky because there's no direction, there's no bias. So I don't even take any trades at all. I just wait. And that's what a lot of people have to learn how to do, just wait. So going over here to the fundamentals, they're still very bullish. So I don't even know if I'll even have any entries to take today because of this huge discrepancy. Fundamentals are currently up 370 points. Looking at the heat map over here, this is completely, well, not completely green, but for the most part, it's very green. So everything here is telling you to take a buy while you're looking over here at the retail sentiment. And this is actually telling you to take a sell because this is telling you that everyone's buying. So the problem with this here is that even though this is all green, you're going to see a lot of people bandwagon onto these buys, right? The problem is that this bullish push already happened. So if you didn't enter into this buy, so like check this out. If you guys traded during London session, then great, because you already caught that bullish push, right? So if you got in from here, that's cool because you already caught the move. The problem with this here is that price is overextended. It's way too high right now. So odds of it continuing to push up higher are unlikely. It's probably going to come right back down and correct back to this area around here because you guys can kind of see where middle ground is, right? So this is middle ground. This is like where price comes back and then it just corrects back to where it was previously before market open, and then it just consolidates from here. This is just pushed up too high. It's pushed up from this point. This was London session. That's where that bullish push happened already. At this point, you're kind of too late if you enter over here. And I wouldn't recommend doing that because I do think price is going to correct back down. Typically, that's like another thing that you want to look out for when price is overextended. Because once price is exhausted, it's gonna end up coming back down to where it's supposed to be. But you guys can see that price is starting to squeeze here. So if this closes right here with this low established or this high established, then you can see that price is now starting to squeeze. And as price starts to squeeze, it's just preparing for a breakout. Right? So that's basically what you're looking for here. Price is just going to keep going sideways until it breaks out. It's going to have to break out at some point. My guess is that it's going to break out to the downside eventually. Not right now, but eventually, yes, it will probably break out to the downside. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark up the news price, which was right there. Delete that. And same with It's right there, news price. And you guys can see it here a lot better. It's illustrated a lot better here on the clean chart. So market open right here, pushed up slightly. Now that the new hour has started right here at 7, this is probably going to consolidate a bit before it makes its way back down eventually. So I would just sit tight and wait for some sort of confirmation. Price is just going sideways, so there's nothing here really even take. Yeah, sounds good, Maddie. Saw your message. Yeah, news as expected, definitely. Yeah, sounds good, Kenny. Let's see, Steven said, I didn't take the breakout either. Now I finally learned it's better to have no trades than have a loss. Yeah, exactly. That's the real key there. And then not really forcing yourself, but training yourself to avoid trades. That's going to help with your trade psychology as well. Because if you guys are able to not FOMO into trades and you guys are able to wait for good entries, that's going to build your trade psychology so you don't just enter random trades. Because I've seen a lot of people enter random trades for no reason. And it just kind of blows my mind how people do that. Like I'll see a lot of times where there's like literally no entry and then price drops a little bit. Like they kind of just see it dump a little bit and then they chase it, right? And then they end up losing because it retraces right back up after that drop. You guys want to be careful for these big types of candles because when you guys see big candles like this or candles with big wicks, just like the breakout this morning. So earlier this morning, you guys can see that the breakout here had a huge wick, right? I know it was a strong red candle, but it was a huge, huge wick. So this typically is going to provide for an indication that there might be some sort of manipulation happening. So you can see right here, price manipulated to the upside, and then it came right back down. And that's normal. The more and more that you guys trade US30, the more and more you'll see that similar patterns just repeat themselves over and over again. So if you guys watch every live session, you guys will see that we look for the same thing every single day. We look for liquidity pushes, we look for reversals, we look for entries that will apply with any of the variations. It's I mean, it's literally just a rinse and repeat of what we did yesterday and the day before that. All right, let's see. There's nothing else over here right now. So the 1 minute is kind of dying out a bit, which is fine. We kind of needed to slow down a bit anyways. Going over here to the 10 minute. 10 minute is all right. Not really much happening here. Oh, damn. B said I'm in a short to opening price on my YOLO account. Pray for me. I think it'll come down eventually, depending on where your stop loss is, B. I think you should be fine, but I do expect it to come back down eventually. It probably won't come down until later, but I do expect it to come down at some point. Yeah, the only problem with the entry right now or being in it is that there's no direction. But I wouldn't be surprised if it just comes dumping down, right? I would be more inclined if we didn't have a sell signal, because right here we already have a sell signal. But like if we didn't have one, you know, typically when you see a sell signal, it just comes dumping down. Like for example, like this over here, price will be pushing up like this. This is kind of like what's happening right here. Price pushes up, but as soon as you get that sell signal, all the way back down. That's why I like having the pending sell signal for a lot of our entries. Like all the variations, we need a pending sell signal because that's basically your catalyst indicating that dump is going to happen. But I mean, it could still happen. Not to say that it can't happen, but it could. Yeah, exactly. And it's good that you do it on a YOLO account and not on all your accounts, because then that'd be kind of crazy. But other than that, let's see. Yeah, nice work. Kevin O here posted more profits. He's up 12,000 off this account. He said in May when they raised the rate, the market rallied up 900 points that day, then crashed the next day by 900 points. So you never know how the market is going to react to the rate hike. And I agree with you 100%, Kevin. Kevin also mentioned this market sucks right now. Yeah, I know it does. It does. Cern over here, he said, days like these, I use a separate account. So Cern here is using his separate account. He locked in a total of 886 for the day. Nice work, Cern. It's like he doubled up that account. So Cern started this account with 1,000 euros. He made 886 euros. He's now currently at 1,879 euros. So nice work, Cern. Other than that, I think that's it for right now. Let's see. Yeah, looking here on the 1 minute, you guys can see that it's not doing anything. So the whole markup I did earlier, it's kind of playing out. It's not really going anywhere. It's just bouncing back and forth between the sessions right here, this green line and the news price. But the good thing here is that you guys can see liquidity is starting to build up on both sides, liquidity on the top side, liquidity on the bottom side. It's just squeezing, it's getting tighter and tighter. So eventually it's going to break out. I do think it's going to break out to the downside because we do have liquidity right here. If it establishes, there's also liquidity up here. So it's kind of risky. There's liquidity up here and there's also liquidity on the bottom side. So price can, I mean, it can really go either way, but we'll see where it ends up going. Going over here to the 10 minute. 10 minute hasn't really done anything since. It's just bouncing around. There's no liquidity anywhere nearby. The next area of liquidity is up here, which is pretty far. See if there's anything else here for any updates. Fundamentals are still pretty bullish. Retail sentiment is still 67% long, so it's starting to get a little weaker. I think a lot of people are starting to get smarter and they're starting to realize that price is probably going to drop soon. So a lot of people here on the buy side are starting to pull out. And you can see the high just got pushed up a bit higher. And there we go, back into the range again right here. So nothing's really happened. Price just going back and forth. Let me see how far this range is right here. So from this price point to this point right here, the range is about 600 pips. Nothing too crazy out of, nothing out of the ordinary. It's just 600 pips back and forth. There goes, price hits that liquidity right there. So there goes the liquidity right there that was hit. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to keep dropping. This could easily just be another fake out like it did above earlier. And it might just pull back into this range. So not one that I'd recommend. There just isn't any direction. If there was a direction, then yeah, maybe you guys can be pulling into these trades, but realistically, there's no direction at all. Price just keeps going back and forth between the high, the low, comes right back to the opening, or not opening price, but to the sessions over here. and it just keeps bouncing back and forth until there's been some sort of direction that's been established. Yeah, Shannon said, I had to take a step back and learn to listen to your instructions. Day 2, finally in control of how I feel during this time, just listening. Thanks, Sean, you're the beast. Yeah, no, definitely, guys. I mean, for a lot of people here, it's really just being able to listen, right? Without taking any moves. Again, right there, another fake out, just like, I mentioned, this alarm said fake out. So it came back below here, then it faked out, came back up. It's just not a good area to be trading, guys. It's just going back and forth right here. So, I mean, you guys can easily get lucky either way, or you can also get unlucky because price will just keep going back and forth as, it bounces around. Like, it's just fake out after fake out, really. And again, right there, another fake out. So, yeah, Shannon said we'll be able to apply this knowledge at any time, especially less volatile periods of the day. Yeah, it's really just being patient and waiting for direction. Like this whole time, there hasn't been direction in about, how long have you been waiting in this range? So we've been waiting in this range for about almost 30 minutes now. So in the past 30 minutes, there hasn't been any clear direction. It's back and forth. And for the scalps here, it's like, so you could technically scalp in between. It's just knowing, when and where to enter specific entries. But even if you were to enter some entries here, it'd be iffy because there's news price and then there's the sessions right there as well. Let's see. Ruin said, thanks, Sean. See you tomorrow. Good luck, everyone. Don't overtrade. Yeah, definitely, Ruin. We'll see you tomorrow too. So if you guys don't have to trade, your best option is to just sit out the market because obviously there's no clear direction right now with wherever price is going. Again, right here, this area of liquidity is and or was getting hit. Maybe this is probably the directional push that we were waiting for, but I can't really tell yet because this typically happens where price will just push below and then it'll just fake out and come back up. So we'll have to see if this is finally confirmed. And again, right there, another fake out. Yeah, guys, so don't fall into these trades here. Just wait for some sort of direction because price is pretty much just going back and forth. It's just creating a bigger range. So like basically this high and this low. It just creates a new high, creates a new low, and then it comes right back to the sessions right here. And it's just not worth the risk. All right, let me check the higher time frames. If there's no movement here on the 10, on the 5, on the 1, then it might be best to just trade on the higher time frames because there's not going to be anything for you to confirm. You can see it here better. Like here on the 10-minute, you can actually see that there's no direction. It's really just going sideways. On the 1, you can see it here too, but it's a lot clearer here on the 10 because it's literally doing nothing. If I drew a line right here at this low, it's more noticeable that price isn't really doing much. Yeah, iPhone said even London was just as messy. I could see that, ahead of Fed Day. I could see London being a mess, just like New York session. Let's see if there's anything else here that's missing. So if you go on the higher time frames right here too, you guys can see that the 1 hour is actually rejecting right off the the pivot right there. So what could happen after this, not that it's going to happen or that I can really gauge it right now, is that if we do get a rejection off this point, if the next signal is a sell signal, it'll just correct back down to where it's supposed to go for a bigger push. So that's something to maybe look out for. I mean, maybe not that big of a push, but enough to make its way back down. Here's the 10-minute. So yeah, looking over here on the 10-minute, not much going on here either. Back to the 1 minute. So price is pushing down a little lower. I wouldn't say that it's established its direction yet, but I mean, you guys can see here that it is pushing down a bit lower. Let's take a look at the sentiment. It's still around 67%. Fundamentals are still up, so no bias here. The heat map is starting to change. Well, not really. It's still very green, but it is starting to shift slightly. Next news event coming in here at 7:30. This is going to be crude oil inventories. I'm assuming it's positive. Since the gas prices are still pretty high, so let me refresh this real quick. Wednesday. So the news at 7 was neutral. Business inventories, NHB housing market index. Next, we have crude oil inventories at 7:30, which is going to come up in about 7 minutes. Looking over here at my FX book news. Yeah, the only thing we have coming up is going to be the crude oil inventories, which is, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be positive. A couple more profits over here. Yep, exactly. It's just about being patient. Mills on over here sent in his profits. He locked in 417 off this account. This is his FTMO. Nice. Looks like you took that, hit your TP with I see the green strip. So nice work right there, Mills on. And then his second account, he locked in 387. So solid work so far right there, Mills on. Other than that, let's see if there's anything else. As you can see, there was no direction here. Price is just, it just pushed the low a little lower below here. But then now it's pushing right back up to the sessions. And I'm starting to get impatient, but I'm starting to get impatient because I do want to take a trade, but I can't let FOMO get the best of me. And what kind of example would I be if I was to FOMO into a trade, right? So I just got to wait and be patient here. There's nothing off the 1 minute, nothing off the 10. Like, it doesn't matter how long you guys have been trading, you're still going to get FOMO. Like, even for me here personally, I'm anticipating it to drop back to opening price. So this is why I'm kind of feeling the FOMO, but I know I shouldn't. Yeah, Eduardo said the patience I'm having today. Wow. So I do expect it to come down to this point. I don't know when it'll come down to this point, but eventually it will come down. The only problem here is that you don't want to enter at the wrong time, because if you enter at the wrong time and price pushes up, you know, you're going to have a lot of drawdown. So that's why you want to be a bit careful. I would probably look for liquidity pushes. If I was to take anything here for a sell, I'd wait for a liquidity push. So right here, you can see how price kind of pushed up a little bit. I wouldn't mind if it pushed down a little bit. Establish the low. And then, push back up from there. But here we go, as price pushes lower. Maddie said he might hop off. Yeah, that might be a good idea, Maddie. If you made your profit back. So whenever you guys take a loss, the key thing is that you recover from that loss. And then if you guys recover from it and then you're still like in a kind of shitty mindset, which, typically it happens, you're still like thinking revenge trade or to overtrade, then a lot of times your best option is to just call it a day. So mindset is everything, guys. Like with these trading strategies here that I show you guys, all of the trading strategies here are all set in place. Like there's no subjectivity to it. Like if you're taking a variation V1, you're checking off these requirements, right? So the strategy doesn't change at all. The only thing that changes is your mindset. If you have a bad mindset, or if you're thinking about gambling, revenge trading, over trading, it's best to just sit it out, because if you follow the strategies properly, you're fine. But if you have a bad mindset trading, you're going to take risky trades, or you're going to skip steps. Like for example, here, there's no variation because there's no overall bias. But what happens is you guys want a revenge trade. So you just skip you skip this step and you go on to the next one. You end up losing a trade. That's key. So just keep that in mind, guys. It's all really trade psychology. I mean, you guys have the blueprint in front of you. You have literally the blueprint of like what I apply every day, what everyone else applies. The real key is knowing when to apply the blueprint and when to sit out the market. Like for me, I'm sitting on my hands right now. I'm thinking about turning off my MC4 and just closing it so that I don't FOMO into any trades. See if there's anything else that I'm missing here. If there's anything else here that I'm missing. All right, let's see. Maddie said, yeah, no, and I agree too, Maddie. It's probably in your best interest to just sit it out. Yeah, Maddie said the last thing you want to do is lose all of your profits or create a deeper hole. That's the the key thing. If you guys try to revenge trade into or try to, here's another example. If you guys were like chasing this drop right here, this is exactly what I was saying. Like I expect price to come down at some point, but I don't know when. So eventually I do think it'll come back down to test this area below here, the opening price, but you don't know when, because you can see right here, price is now bouncing back up. It's kind of doing what I was anticipating. This is what I actually want to happen. I want price to push up a little bit. And then I want it to come back down so we can create an area of liquidity below here. So I want it to create an area of liquidity like somewhere right there. Have it swing back up. And then at that point, when it comes down for liquidity, this is where I would take my entry for the sell. That's basically what I'm looking for. It's kind of just being patient and waiting for these entries to come up, unless I see anything else different. The problem here is that we can't take any variations because there's no overall bias. Here's news right here. Let's see what happens with the news. Yeah, Patricia said trading view and MC4 is starting to lag a bit. Also, one more reason not to trade. Yeah, and that's definitely, and I started to notice it right now too, Patricia. Whenever there's like data lag like that, it's usually a sign that market's about to do something crazy. You also don't want to trade when the market's lagging like that, because you can get caught in a lot of slippage, whether it be in your direction or not. It's a huge risk. iPhone said lost a lot today, almost to my DD. If that's the case, you should probably just sit out then. iPhone, there's no reason for you to blow your account trying to revenge trade your way back. Not sure what trade you took, but yeah, I mean, I haven't taken anything really myself, not during the live at least. Um, let's see, Denzel's asking, is that a V3 or is it too risky? So I don't see a V3 right here. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Denzel, but there's no V3 right here. The high needs to be a green candle. So going over here to the V3, well, the first step isn't there, so there wouldn't be a V3 to begin with. But if we were to skip that step and just see if there was any other entries, the high here would have to be a green candle, and the following candle would have to be an opposite. Oh, you're talking about this one here. Yeah, this would be a V3 right here, but let me just measure it to see. Actually, it wouldn't be. So the reason why this right here is not a V3 is because, for one, the overall bias isn't present. And then for two, the minimum stop loss of 300 pips wasn't there. So minimum stop loss of 300 pips on the 1 minute. So if you look over here and you check this buy, this it just wouldn't fit the requirement because the stop loss would have to be at least this far away so that you have some cushion. So no V3 off of that right there. Two steps that weren't met for that buy. Yeah, no problem, Denzel. Let's see. Here goes. Price starts to drop lower. So it's starting to create lower lows. And lower highs. It looks like the direction is starting to establish here. Yeah, Jesus said the slippage messed me up, so I'm sitting on my hands. Yeah, the spread looks fine. I'm looking at the spread, it's 110, but the slippage might be the issue. If the market's moving too fast, it might miss your exit or your entry. You might enter with some drawdown. But I mean, other than that, there's not really much else here to identify. We go back to the 10-minute over here. There's nothing really going on here on the 10. It's starting to create a low here. If this low is created, it's just going to create a range. So the same range that we had here on the 1 minute, it's now on the 10-minute, unless it breaks below, continues dropping. Let's see. Mauricio said, Sean, when the market is moving slower, do you think it's best to look at higher time frames? At a lot of times, yeah, I think so. Because when it's moving slower, you're not really going to catch any entries. So you'd be better off just looking like on the 10-minute here, because you can see it a lot better as like you can't really see this range on the 1 minute because it looks like price is actually going down. So on the 1 minute over here, it looks like price is heading downwards, right? But if you look here on the 10-minute, price is really just going sideways. So yes, I do agree with looking on the higher time frames if the market's moving too slow, like it's moving right now, because you get to see the bigger picture. Sometimes the 1 minute will it'll kind of trick you into thinking that price is going a direction, but it really isn't, because you just see a few candles move in one direction, but realistically, it's just going sideways. Yeah, and I agree with you too, Mauricio. And Mauricio said when it's faster, looking at the 1 minute, so you can catch those quicker moves. But yeah, so you can see right here, the 10-minute isn't really doing anything. Like right here, people might start to feel the need to take sells, but realistically, it's not really doing anything. You can see here on the 10 that it's just going sideways. And it's still ranging between the, obviously the sessions right there. Let's see. And I just don't see anything. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. I just don't have anything here to take. I don't have anything like to really analyze. Market's not doing anything. It's now swinging back up right here. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't anything for us to take at the moment. And I don't recommend anyone FOMO into any of these moves. What I'm kind of looking at now is I'm looking for some momentum pullbacks. If you guys are not familiar with the momentum pullback strategy, I don't know if there's, I don't even have it on here. Basically, I'm looking for a retracement, like a retracement signal, something like this, because when it retraces up, I do expect it to come back down. So if this closes with like a buy signal or something, I would expect it to drop at least a little bit lower or come back down. So like you can see this one right here didn't close. This is it's a pattern that I see a lot. So like just wait for this to close. If this closes with the green signal, like it did right here, I'm expecting it to come back down. It's basically the momentum pullback strategy. Not that I'm looking to take it, but I'm just looking at these patterns here because it keeps playing out. If it keeps playing out, then I might start taking some sells when I get these buy signals that come up. Because overall, I'm still thinking for it to drop lower. See, sentiment is not loading. But yeah, so if you guys use the K2 indicators or you guys are trading something like a lot, like very often, you guys will start to see these patterns. Like this is how I create my strategies. Basically, I'm just looking at the chart. If I see like patterns that keep reappearing, then that's how I create the strategy. Like for example, if I created I did create the momentum pullback strategy, right? So like, for example, the way I understood how the strategy worked was when I had a bias in the other direction, when I'd see a green signal like this, I'm like, okay, typically if it's going opposite, this is just a retracement. So in order for it to correct back down, it's going to have to swing below here. So I would enter a sell somewhere right there. And you guys, a lot of you guys are familiar with the strategy. I would wait for it to come back down, or I'd wait for it to close. And then as it came back down, I had a sell stop there. And then when it fills, it goes straight to TP. So that's how I create my strategies. I basically trade something enough where I start to see these patterns on the chart. And then I create requirements that you guys can follow to apply these strategies. A lot of these strategies are just stuff that I think of on the fly. I don't necessarily set out and I'm like, okay, I need this type of strategy or I need this type of strategy. I kind of just look at the charts, and when I see some inconsistencies in the market, I can capitalize on them. Like for example, there's another a momentum entry right here. The only reason I know this is because we had a bearish bias pretty much for the past couple of days. So like, for example, here, this is a retracement. The entry would happen right over here. So if you had the sell stop waiting right there, basically a full TP off that. Same with this one right here. It's just these patterns that keep coming up. So what I'm looking for right here is I'm looking for this to, well, it didn't close, but if it did. So this one, if you guys remember earlier, this was technically going to close as a buy signal. If it did close and we had a pivot scalp, this would have been the entry right there. Not that it was an entry, but if it did close, that's where the entry would be. I don't know, maybe I'll create a new strategy right here if I see another pattern. It's just being able to adapt with the market. That's why we have specific strategies for specific market conditions. 10-minute, nothing going on here. Let's see. Price starting to push below right here on the 10. So look what we got pushed down a little lower. So it looks here on the 10, it's starting to shift a bit lower, which is cool. But again, right there, I mean, the low just got pushed a little lower and then now it's back to going sideways. No confirmation yet of it pushing any lower, or no real confirmation. Yeah, this market sucks. All right, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Otherwise, there's not really much for us to really take right now. Steven said, what a bad day. It's not necessarily a bad day because we haven't had any losses, Steven. The thing is, I feel like you need to work on your trade psychology, right? You need to get out of your own head. Because the thing is, I already know how you trade, Steven. You kind of want to take a trade, like you want to force a trade. And that's how you blow your account, right? You know, the past, I don't know how long was it, like the past 3-4 months, you had no losses because you listened and you followed directions. As soon as you stopped following directions, you blew your account that very next day. So it's not necessarily a bad day, Steven, if you don't have any losses. I mean, you even mentioned it earlier. It's a bad day if you had losses. But typically, if you had a loss, you probably took that loss because you made, you know, a bad trade. According to your judgment. Here, let's see. Patricia said, Sean, I would just cut it. Market sucks, signing off. Yeah, definitely, Patricia. So I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, so Patricia's signing off. That's probably a sign to call it a day. Eduardo said, had a decent day, was very patient, ended up with 900 profit after losing 500 in the breakout. Can't wait for tomorrow to lose it all. Have a good day, guys. Yeah, definitely, Eduardo. So we'll see you tomorrow. Mauricio said, I made more money from not trading than actual trading. Thanks, Sean. Definitely, Mauricio. And that's key. It's really understanding risk and understanding when and when not to enter trades. Jonathan said, it's a win if you don't take an L or FOMO into anything, stay disciplined. Yeah, that's really what it is, guys. Like days like this is where you build your trade psychology because you're able to control your account, really. I mean, a lot of people have trouble controlling their account because they just try to take every single trade possible, like Steven. Sorry, Steven, low blows. But yeah, like, if you guys ever like blow an account or you guys lose a trade, just go back and review that trade. You know, 10 times out of 10, you probably made a mistake. You skipped a step or you just weren't thinking. Yeah, Betty. And that's, so if you guys have a problem with consistency, what I'd recommend is you guys journal your trades. You know, just create an Excel sheet or a spreadsheet or even just a notepad. Just mark up whatever trades you lose. Mark what strategy you used, make sure to confirm if there was a bias during that time. And, you know, 10 times out of 10, it's probably there's no bias. Like for today, I haven't taken any trades here on the live because there's no bias. Retail sentiment over here is currently, it's not even loading. It's 67% long. The fundamentals here are bullish. So this is telling you to take a sell. This is telling you to take a buy. The heat map here is pretty much all over the place. So there's no bias here. So like in order for you to take a trade that's like high quality with regard to what direction it's going to or what direction it's pushing, you don't have that here. So I just take today as a lesson of discipline and trade psychology. So if you guys didn't take any losses today, I would consider that a win, honestly, because I could tell there's a couple people here who probably FOMO'd into moves and then took a loss, but then made it back. So as long as you guys close out the day in positive or you didn't take any losses, that'd be a win in my book. So look where price is currently at. If you guys remember earlier, price was above here, right? And I mentioned that I expect price to come back down to test opening price. Look where price is going. It's almost there. If you guys want to go back and rewind the live session later and rewatch it, you guys can see that my analysis from earlier played out perfectly. This is why I go with retail sentiment, because even though the fundamentals here are very green, the retail sentiment here has precedent. So with this having precedent, I would still be looking for sells, even though the fundamentals are green. And as you can see at this point, and check this out. So here's a clean chart. I didn't touch this at all. So I marked this up about an hour ago. So this is my markup from an hour ago. It played out exactly how I drew it, like literally on point. I said price was going to push up, it was going to consolidate, and then it was going to drop back down to opening price. And that's exactly what happened. This is a clean markup for the 1 minute, and it played out perfectly. I kind of wish I took that sell earlier that B took. I'm not sure if you're still in it, B. I remember you took the sell around this point. If you did, you must be heavy in profit, because if you did enter that trade, nice. Okay, cool. So B took it and he locked in 2,700. So nice work right there. This is the trade that B took. He took it from this point. He had a stop loss around this area, and then he pretty much wrote it down. Yeah, B said close it a bit early. I shouldn't have, but wasn't sure. And that's fine. You know, that again, that's like another exercise to train your trade psychology. So now that you trust the move, the next time around, you'll be able to trust it even more and let it actually play out. Because this is the target here. The target's always going to be opening price, right? You're always, if the overall bias is a sell and price pushes up, the target is going to be opening price right here. Some people can hold on to it for that long. Some people can't. I personally don't like holding on to trades that long. So I personally wouldn't do that. But I mean, for the most part, pretty solid. So, all right, guys, it's 7:50 right now. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Otherwise, I think we'll be wrapping this up soon. There's really no reason for us to be trading right now because there's no overall bias. Also, there's no clear direction. I mean, price is coming back down to opening price, but there just isn't any clear direction telling me like, hey, I should take sells or hey, I should take buys. Sam's asking, Sean, can you give a quick analysis on gold 1 hour? Sure, no problem. So let me go to gold real quick. Right here. Yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark up liquidity here. Gold moves very similar to US30. So if you guys want to draw liquidity here for gold, it actually works very well because the type of asset that gold is, it's very similar to US3 where it's directional. It's not like forex where it ranges a lot. It's pretty directional. So these areas of liquidity are very useful. So we've got that there. Go to these lower time frames. It's good. So I'm not sure what time frame you trade gold on. Sam, if you want to like just give me a time frame so I know like how you want me to analyze it, because the analysis is going to vary depending on time frame. I guess like the highest that I'll probably trade gold on would be the 1 hour, but you can go as low as the 10 minute if you really wanted to. So if you want to let me know, okay, 1 hour, gotcha. Perfect. Thanks for confirming that. So yeah, you're looking at this pivot scalp right here. I guess it would be considered just a regular pivot entry, right? Because it's on such a high time frame. The main thing here that I'd be careful for is the news coming up, right? So we had news here at 7. We have news coming up with the Fed later today at 11. So that's going to affect this super heavily. I personally wouldn't take it myself, but just looking at the analysis over here. So let me just take a look at this. It looks like price is coming down. Let me take a look at the sentiment real quick. Sentiment for gold right now is currently 83% long. So I would definitely take a sell. That's where my bias would be. And yeah, this would actually fit as an intraday entry, just like what Pat mentioned. So I do think this would be a good entry, but I would take that with a grain of salt because the news is coming up shortly, Sam. So if you do decide to take this trade or something like it, I would recommend that I would actively follow it. And then I would probably pull out when you had the opportunity, because when the news happens over here at 11, like expect a crazy movement to happen. Like I expect it to definitely spike. And the problem with that is if it spikes, it can either hit your TP or stop loss, or it can hit your stop loss and then go to your TP really quickly. So just due to the fact that we have very high impact news coming up at 11, like for one, Powell is speaking. For two, it's the economic projections. Let me just check real quick. Yeah. So we have the Fed economic projections, Fed statement, Fed funds rate, Fed press conference, and then we have Powell speaking today as well. So there's a lot of things in the market going on where I wouldn't want to trade it. But if you want to go for like a small, not necessarily a long hold, yes, you could take it. And I do think it'll come down because the sentiment does align with it for a sell. But yeah, Pat, you could run the intraday strategy on gold as well. So like, trying to see if there was an example here. This is invalid. This is invalid. I mean, all the cells here were invalid, so there's nothing here that really lines up with it necessarily. This was invalid. This was invalid because the trend meter was green. Yeah, so I mean, the intraday strategy does work fine on here. It's just that, like, so here's one that actually does work. And this one actually does hit TP. But this doesn't happen for like a while. This happened like on May 25th. All right, US30 is starting to dump. It hit that liquidity right there too. So it hit the liquidity, and then, yeah, guys. So this is, I mean, our analysis played out perfectly. This is why I look at retail sentiment. So you guys can see this manipulated push from open. Market opened here at 630. It was manipulated to the upside just to lure in buyers, and then it consolidated before it dumped right back down to where it's supposed to be. This is where it's supposed to be, because we were looking for a sell pretty much all day today. That would have been a nice sell there if I would have caught it, but it's all good. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with it. If you guys are looking at to hop into these sells here, be careful, because there's news price right here. And then as price drops lower, there's going to be the Asia high right here with the sessions. So I don't really recommend anyone chase this sell, even though I do think it'll probably drop further. I don't recommend people chase a sell. You're gambling at that point, because it's going to have to retrace up at some point. And then right here, it might just retrace up from this news price. Yeah, I know, Maddie, right? But other than that, I don't see any other questions. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping this up pretty shortly. Yeah, Sam said the news is what's making him hesitate on taking this gold trade, which I would be hesitating about that too. And you can see right here, it actually, that sell signal disappeared. So I don't think it's going to be that strong. It might not even close with the sell signal, and you have to wait for the next candle. And if you wait for the next one, it's going to be so close to news where I just wouldn't even take it at all. But yeah, maybe take it on your demo. That'll help you build your trade psychology so that you feel comfortable about these trades next time, Sam. And then you'll just hop into it without even thinking. That's basically how I trade. I never think when I trade. I literally just hit buy or sell. So sometimes you'll see me like I don't really have emotions when I trade. Whenever I see something good, I just enter a buy or sell and I let it run. Um, that's pretty much the level that everyone should be at, while you're trading emotionless. Because when you guys have emotions involved, that's how you get greedy. You just want to make more, you want to make more, you want to revenge trade or FOMO into trades. So, all right, guys, other than that, it's 5:56. So I think we're done for this session so far. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me or message me on Telegram. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow morning for the next live session as we continue on with this trading week. We have 2 more days to come. Looking over here at the news calendar, we have unemployment claims tomorrow, Philly manufacturing index, both medium news. This will affect the market one way or the other at 5:30. So hopefully this will create some volatility in the market before market open for our live session. And then again on Friday, we have Powell speaking at 5:45. So Powell will be speaking into our session and we'll have to see how that plays out. It's pretty much all a lot of Fed members speaking on Friday. We have Powell speaking, and after that we have Waller speaking. So just a lot of news coming up. But other than that, guys, I think that's it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow for the next live session as we pick